Hello and welcome to this very interesting episode. It's going to be a little podcast today we have Ángel Martín Mora on and Joel Cardoso. You know Joel Cardoso already from a podcast that we did before. So if you didn't watch this podcast, please go watch this podcast directly after this episode today. And I will quickly introduce you Ángel Martín Mora, who's new on this channel. So he's the principal clarinetist of Lyon National Opera, which is really cool. And he made many competitions and won really big competitions like the Lancelot Clarinet competition, first prize, and the second prize in the Ghent International Clarinet competition. And if you watch this video until the very end, he will share his three best exercises actually, how he got to the point where he is today. Very quick 15 seconds interruption before you will get this golden nuggets that this episode will have to offer. I want to offer you something for free. It's my free mini masterclass on articulation on the clarinet, more precisely the 4 types of articulation. If you don't know what the 4 types are, go download it right now. It's the first link down in the description, and then return to this podcast and get all of those golden nuggets. Let's go now. What was the technical problem that was the most difficult one to solve for you, like in your entire life? Like which technical problem did you fight with the most?
Okay, that's a good question. Because there's not only one problem that I have to figure out and to cope with, but I think the one I remember right now is the embouchure. It was one of the first things that I remember. That was embouchure and tonguing, right? So I remember first time with Yehuda Aguilar. I was in Avila. Yeah, so Avila is a nice city in Spain, and I remember that I took my first masterclass with him, with Yehuda, and I played Marcarante Concerto, first movement, and I was very focused on the music, on all the notes and every fast passages and breathing and stuff, and I remember that I finished the movement and he said to me, okay, let's work on embouchure and tonguing. So he gave me the straw, which is very famous, right, to improve the embouchure, and also he gave me, he has an exercise because he wanted me to put the teeth in the mouthpiece a bit, not too in the mouthpiece, but a bit more exterior, and he put me another patch to place very well the teeth on, and we spent basically 15 minutes doing that, and also we did some spitting some paper balls to improve the tonguing, and he explained to me how to tonguing by doing this exercise. So basically we were rolling like a small piece of paper, right, and we were making of it like a small ball. So we put it in the mouth, and we have to spit very far away. So for him, he was the first thing I need to improve regarding my tonguing. To understand that it's about expelling the ball very far away. So it's not only a question of tonguing, but it's also about support, right? So tonguing is not only putting the tongue, but it's also about using the air. And then the way we release also the tongue, right? It's not only the movement forward, but the movement backward. So for me, it was the 2 things that at that moment, I really need to work on. And then, other issues come up. But for me, it was the 2 important stuff that I had to improve at that moment. And then it was way better. And now I'm less worried about, let's say.
I mean, it's amazing how you spoke about very important basics of clarinet, and I think there is a lot of different views how to do it. No, like what you said for me makes all the sense, and people explain me how to do it like this, but not with these exercises. So to get this final result, there is many different ways. So it's very interesting. What would you say, Fabian?
Yeah, there's so many different ways to visualize like these concepts about clarinet technique. Like for example, the exercise with the ball, like that you should like spit very far. It's like basically the visualization of having like very fast air and the entire air pressure directly at the beginning of the note, like not first and then and then fast air. And like there's so many different ways to explain it, but I think the really good teachers are the ones that have like these easy visualizations that yeah, this is logical. Yeah, I need
that
like
is actually that's actually the point, because it's very visual, right? So when we play clarinet, in a way, I like to I would say that clarinet in a way is a distraction, in a good sense. That means that we have to take care of many different issues, right? Is the sound, the intonation, the blow, the speed, the support, the breathing, the everything, right? So at some point we are losing part of the basics, and with this kind of exercises that we don't need the instrument anymore, but it's just a question of natural stuff or just visual stuff, like is the case of the ball, right? So basically that is a great exercise because you understand very well from a visual point of view that if you don't support right before tonguing a note, then the beginning of the note is not gonna be fine, and the air pressure is not gonna be enough to speed the ball very far, right? So this is a great way to improve it. And there are many other different exercises regarding the approach of the fingers with the air, which is very interesting also, right? We have the tendency to, when we see a fast passage, to take care a lot of the fingers because we think it's, of course, it's very difficult from a finger point of view, but then we are forgetting a bit about the airflow and the importance of the air, right? If we are just focusing on the fingers, we don't blow anymore, and then we have a problem because the fingers, they become more tense, they have more tension, right? In a way, we don't have the support of the air, and also when we don't blow anymore, the fingers are more tense also. It's a natural reflex, right? Instead, if we are put the support, we don't need to play forte or fortissimo. We just put in the enough support and speed in the air. Then the fingers, we can relax the fingers a bit more, and it can flow in a more natural way.
Yeah, this is really important. I remember as a kid, like thinking a lot when I have technical passages, to really thinking about the blowing and to put more air and not thinking about the fingers. It's really a good trick, no? Like sometimes there are tricks in clarinet playing that we use that are not really related with, for example, in this case with the fingers, that we think sometimes that is the finger that is failing, but no, it's the air that is failing. It's not there. It's really interesting. It's very also psychological, no? Like.
Yeah. Also, Francois Wender, like once in the masterclass where I met him for the first time, he said like that, okay, the most important one, like by far, is like the air and everything, like air support, and then come like embouchure, articulation, and fingers. And then oftentimes he said, if you fix the air, all of the other three automatically work. So sometimes you just have to like inside of the pedal, and then suddenly, oh, my fingers work. Like I didn't even have to practice the fingers, but I thought it's a finger problem.
Yeah, definitely, because it's a wind instrument, right? So clarinet. So that means something. It's not. That means that the air is very, very important. So everything else, of course, then the way we shape the air, the vocalization inside the mouth, or the embouchure, which is very important, right? Because maybe we can put a lot of air, but if we don't have the proper embouchure, it doesn't. It's not efficient, the air that we are blowing, right? But everything is around the air. The air is the most important thing at the end. For tonguing, also for many different, for fingers.
Okay. Yeah. How do you describe like how do you support well in clarinet playing? Because it's a thing people speak a lot now about supporting with diaphragm. How do you approach the diaphragm or the support? Do you have any approach?
So, I mean, that's an interesting question because many people think that support is something like a rock, right, in the belly, that we have to put it very tense and very rigid, and then we are fine, and then it's all good. No. The problem is that if we think like that, I mean, we are creating a lot of tension. So you have to be very natural. So there's an exercise, I think it was my Florent Eok who told me that exercise, which is very simple. It's just we put the metronome at the speed of 60, right, like the second speed, and in a second we take air in, and then in the next second we are expelling the air. Then the same process in 2 seconds, and then in 3, in 4, in 5. So basically it's like so you take air in each repetition and then you expel it. And it's very interesting because we need to adapt, right? Because it's not the same to take air in the body in 1 second than in 10 seconds. So that is the approach with the diaphragm. We need to, it's a great way to train the support to function. And it's very important because it has to be very natural, because there are some tendency in the clarinet world to breathe and then to contain something, to restrain something, and then blow. And by doing that, we think that we have a proper support. But it should be way more natural than that. For me, the way we take the air in is the way that we are going to expel it. That's why, I don't know, for instance, we don't blow for the Mozart concerto second movement, for instance. We're not blowing, we're not taking the air in very fast, right? We are not doing, it doesn't make sense, right? So it has to have a pace, right? It has to be, so that is a bit the idea. And the same with the first movement or the third movement, right? We're not breathing. We're not doing that. We have to take the air in to breathe in the rhythm of the music, right? So if we're gonna play a faster tempo, the breathing has to be faster. And if we are playing in a slower tempo, the breathing has to be slower. So it's a bit I don't like to think of it like too much as something very rigid. It has to be something that is because the process is the following. We are taking air in, the lungs expand, right? And then the diaphragm opens also, and then everything expands, and the belly expands. But that is the consequence of the breathing. It's not we don't have the support in the belly in a way. It's the lungs that open first. So everything is a very natural process. It's like when we sleep, right? So we take air in and then we expel it. Very natural.
But so how do you get then the speed air? How, like, is about voicing for you then?
So it's about several stuff. It's about vocalization, so the approach of the inside the mouth. So it's very important to understand. It's like singers. They have a vocalization inside, and that's the reason why they sing like oh. It's not oh, it's oh. It's in a very specific placing inside the mouth, right? And we can approach that with the tongue. It's a great way to think about it, because even we think that the tongue is like something that is a muscle that we only use when we articulate, but it's not only the case. I mean, we can also think about the tongue when we play legato, because it's the way the air from below, how it passes in the mouth and then into the clarinet. So it's a whole process. So it's very important, because for me it's like the first channel, right, where we create the shaping of the air, and then the second one is the embouchure, right? So the air speed, it depends also on that. If we want to have let's say a warmer sound, maybe we have to blow a bit slower and with a more round and maybe more open embouchure. And if we want something more speedy or more bright, we need to close a bit more the embouchure and try to think of it like more cold air in a way, like more sharp air, right?
And which vowel?
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think about that, guys? About,
for me personally, exactly what you say. Like many clarinetists, they play like oh, like with the tongue very low, and they don't think like as a singer. Like as you said, like we should be like sing and have this like tongue shape and like voicing of a singer basically, and then the clarinet is basically the extension for singing, same like me. And which vowels do you use while vocalizing? So is it like ü or
yeah, so that's a good question because there's a lot of debate regarding that. So as you said, to avoid the low tongue, right, which is implying a lot of implication of the throat, it's important to find a vowel that is a bit more close. So I don't suggest to use a because of that, because a is very open, so in a way it forces the tongue to go very low. So I would think kind of between e and u, so something a bit more in a way, but it depends on that's something very important of the instrument, of the clarinet. It's not a perfect instrument. I mean, we have to react to that. So it depends. It's not the same if we play in the high register or if we play in the low register, right? So the low register, the tendency is to have a sound that is a bit more broad already in a natural way. So we need to react to that, because otherwise it's gonna sound like too open, right? So it's a bit the problem of the clarinet. So we need to react by using a maybe smaller embouchure, faster air, and a vocalization of a EU, something like that, right? So for example, Mozart concerto, for these low notes, it's very important not to open, because the tendency of the instrument is already to do that, right? And the opposite for the high register. So high register, the tendency is to be very tight, very tiny, right? So if we think of it like, and that is a bit the tendency of everyone, to think of it like it's also very difficult, high register, so we get to get tense and tight, and then tendency is to do something like this, right? Very, very close, so we need to blow a bit more warmer air with a larger embouchure, so maybe there's no problem to vocalize with a more open vowel, you know, to find a sound more interesting. You know, something more warm in a way, more. So yeah, but it's a good question. Also, it depends on the country, because the approach we have with every note. For instance, in Spain we don't say C, D, E, F. We are with do, re, mi, fa, sol. So it's very interesting, because if we play a fa, an F, we think in a subconscious way we think a, because it's a fa, it's the vowel of the note. So we need to react to that. Or the opposite with the C, or the B, right? The B is C in Spanish or in French, for instance. I think in Portugal also. I'm not sure.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol.
Yeah, so it's the same. So, or the mi, the E, is a bit the same. We think of it too tiny, too E. So that's why I don't like to put E either, because it's a bit too, the corners of the embouchure are too tight. And the important thing of the embouchure is to find something more round, to avoid biting with the teeth, because it's a very natural motion that we have when we eat, for instance. So we need to avoid that, because that is the first reflex when we play, when we get tense and we are afraid of playing. And the important thing is to find more involvement of the corners of the embouchure. So more this part, so we avoid using the vertical, the movement of the embouchure.
I had a lot of teachers always telling me about this. These down and these really, the corners are the ones that have the strength for the support, and all the rest needs to let the reed vibrate, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Fabian, actually, I remember Francois had also an approach to this thing about the different harmonics on the instrument. No, so we have a low register. He told us to think about cold air, and in the high notes to think about, of course, warm air. And it goes exactly to the thing you said. No, we need a focus on the low register to avoid the openness and fluffy sound. And in the high register, since it's like also the vibrations are smaller and more direct, then we need a bit more space and resonance for these notes to sound more beautiful, right?
Yeah, exactly. He was always like saying very low notes, like cold, fast air, and then the higher it goes, like more into this, like, yeah, more open wind of air, basically. And
then
yeah,
a difficult thing for me is actually then, of course, then we have this approach of the low notes that we need a bit faster air, and the high notes that we need like a bit more resonance or space. But then the difficult thing for me is also, like, for example, if we play a E, Mi down, or a B, like the more down we go to the clarinet, the more air we need as well, because the air needs to go more down, right?
Yeah.
And then we have like these notes up that are very near to the blowing, and then we need to really approach them different. Even if we are in low notes, like Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, C, D, whatever, it's already near, so we don't need as much air as down. And that's also a bit difficult to understand, no? But
I never thought about
this. Do you
this,
feel that as well?
yeah.
Because when I play, for example, a B, we really need a lot more air and more support, no, to go down in the instrument. And if we play a note more up, then it's like we don't need that much air. So it's a bit difficult to understand all this and to feel it. Do you guys feel it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and there's a good exercise to improve that. That is to play scales, right? That's why scales are very important. It's not only for the fingers and to have a lot of control of different tonalities and many different keys, right? But it's also to find the homogeneity of the sound in every register, right? So the important thing of doing scales, even if we play very slow, it's not. I mean, the faster we can play with the best quality of the sound, the better, right? But the most important thing is to find the same quality of the sound in every register, in the low register, middle, and high. So, and to avoid a bit like you said, Joel, like the tendency of maybe doing small little crescendos, or the crescendos in the middle of a scale, which is very typical, right? When we go to the third register, maybe there are tendency to play a bit the crescendo, and when we go up we do crescendo, when we go down we do diminuendo, and there's no reason to do that, but it's a natural tendency. There are like some tendencies that are very interesting, like also doing crescendo and doing accelerando, or doing diminuendo and doing rallentando. So that is very interesting to find even when we go down on the scale, to keep always the support until the very end, right? Not to precisely to do that, to blow until the very end to the low register, which is very important because we need to put more air.
So, it's really important to find homogeneity and evenness in the instrument. It's not even, the instrument is not homogeneous, so we need to work a lot on that. I think we could go for the introduction you gave to us, Fabian, no? Like what about the exercises? It's a good point. Since
but first, I remembered you said something about that you're changing your clarinet brand. Was this just a rumor or is this true?
It's true. I found a new instrument that I'm in love with. I was playing the same brand for many years, and now I found something that I think can bring me to another and different possibilities. So yeah, I have here my new instruments. I can show you.
Ooh,
Now I'm excited.
I have
is the
new Bakun Lumiere shining.
Wow.
Oh, it's
Two
so beautiful.
even.
Yeah, I'm really happy with them. So actually, there is an interesting thing on them about intonation and about homogeneity. So they have this F vent key, like for the F, and then it closes for the I register. So the intonation goes lower also in the because usually the C the up is a bit high. So when it closes, it goes a bit low, and for the F, it opens, so the F is higher. So it's really nice for the balance of the instrument. And I got actually also an interesting combination of woods. Like I have barrels and bells in cocobolo and also in grenadilla. And I'm finding very interesting possibilities, you know. The combination of different woods can really bring very interesting sounds and colors in the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And you're coming from
Wow.
Selmer, yeah?
Great news.
Yeah, right. I was playing Selmer for 10 years and now I decided it's time to change
Time
from
to go
Paris
American.
to Canada, to Vancouver.
Ah, Canada.
Nah,
Canada.
America, now Canada.
Yeah,
It's
Canada,
important
okay.
to not mix up.
Yeah.
Wait.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
But good. That was so
Thank you
cool.
for the
Nice.
opportunity to show
The
off.
promotion.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So, yeah, we promised the 3 best exercises that helped Angel getting to the place where he is right now, which is like winning these auditions and these competitions. So, yeah, now some good enlightenments are coming.
Okay, so there are several exercises. The first one I would say is very general. It's not very specific regarding doing some stuff. It's not technical either. Okay, the other 2 will be more technical, but the first one I think I would say, because for me it's very important to bring that up, is it's just very simple, but you need to record yourself. Okay, it's just a practice. It's not an exercise in a way. It's just a routine that you have to do. It's something very useful for many different reasons, because we get to know ourselves in a very good way, and that is very important to play whichever we are practicing at the moment, an etude or a piece, or even for instance for preparation of auditions, for casual auditions, we can record ourselves in the phone, an excerpt, and then we listen to it
Manel,
in a
6
very
minutes,
objective
5
way.
minutes, okay?
That is very important. So not with the kind of the emotional, attachment to ourselves, which is very difficult because we have to judge ourselves in a very cold and very objective way. But try to just record and then listen and take care of many different things that is obvious that when we play the instrument is very difficult. That's why I said that in a way clarinet is a distraction, right? Because we have to take care of many different things. So sometimes we forget about style, or about the quality of the sound, or about rhythm, very important for casual auditions, to be very precise with the rhythm, to know the balance, which is if we are playing the melody or we are doing accompaniment of another voice, right? So all that we can improve all these concepts when we record ourselves and then we listen. So the only thing we have to do when we listen to ourselves is just sit down, then you have the musical sheet, right? And then you just listen to yourself and you write down the things that you can improve. You don't need to play the notes, you don't need to blow, you don't need to breathe. It's only listen. So it's a great way, and I would recommend to do that if possible also in orchestral auditions, in the actual audition. I do that very often since 2 years ago. I started to record myself in the actual rounds. So I took my phone with me, and once you get there, you put it in a chair. I don't like to put it in my pocket because it's a bit too close and can be a bit disturbing, and the quality of the sound is not gonna be great. But you can put it in a chair a bit distant, like 5-6 meters or somewhere that you can put the phone safely, and then you record yourself. And at the very end of the audition, either you don't think anymore about the audition, either you listen to the recording and then you judge yourself, because that is very important. We have the point of view of the performer, but not the point of view of the jury. And that is extremely important when we prepare auditions or competitions, to make sure that we have the two elements at the same time, that we can play and we can convince others that our playing is the best, right? Which is the purpose of winning an audition or a competition, right? So by doing that, it's a great way also, because we know how we react in the actual moment, in the critical moment, which is the audition or the 3 minutes of the Mozart concerto, right? The exposition of the Mozart concerto or something, or 2 excerpts. That is a very critical moment, because we get nervous, and firstly we react to it in a different way. So it's important to train that also. Okay, second exercise I would recommend. This is for intonation. It's very important to know your instrument very well, and I know I'm pretty sure that you do the same when and now, Joel, that you have a new instrument also. The first thing that you love your instrument when you get a new one that you really like, but then you say, okay, great, but it's a different instrument, right? So there are some tendencies regarding sound quality, or the resistance of the instrument, or the response of the instrument, or intonation, basically, that are different from one instrument to another. So it's very important to focus on that. So I like to put the tuner, machine, and I don't like to put the actual tuner where you see if it's flat or sharp, because that is not very natural. I think of intonation like something more as a mix, and try to melt with another timbre. So you can there's an option in the many different tuner applications for the phone, that you can put a reference sound, right? Like a pedal sound, and then you play at the same time the same note, or you do fifths, so if it's sounding I'm with the A clarinet, but if it's sounding, you put a low E, for instance, as a pedal note, and then you play. You can play fifths and octaves, and then you can add thirds and sixths or whatever, right? So all that is very, very important, to get to know the tendency of each note in your instrument, and it's extremely important to anticipate the intonation of the instrument. That is key, to know everything very well. So then at the moment of the performance, with the piano, with other musicians, in the orchestra, or even on just yourself, you know how each note react, right? That is very important. And also to melt with the sound, the timbre. Intonation is not only to be in tune. What we call being in tune is not only about being very in the middle, right, of the machine, of the tuning machine, but also to have a timbre in the sound that is melting, that is blending very well with the rest, right? So that is the second exercise. And third, I would say there are a lot of exercise, but let's put it this way: the third is like a combination of 2 exercises. Okay, like I'm gonna put 2 exercises in the third exercise. So the first one is for the embouchure. This is an exercise from Yehuda Gilad, so it's not my exercise, okay? So it's basically called the freezing exercise. So you play for instance, open G, and then you freeze the embouchure. You play the note, and then you keep the same embouchure. You don't change anything in the mouth. And if you need to breathe, you breathe through the nose. You don't open the mouth. So, but the important thing is to keep that all the time frozen, in a way. And you do that, you can stay 1 minute or more doing that, and you will feel over the time that this is getting more tired, because you are keeping the embouchure all the time in tension. So that is a great way to make the embouchure more consistent. That's the first exercise in the third exercise, and the second one is regarding staccato. So this exercise is just playing. You put a speed of 60 or 70, the quarter note, and you play first a quarter note, then you play 2 eighth notes, then you play a triplet in the same note. Then you play 4 16 notes, then a quintuplet, then a sextuplet, and then 7, and that's it. And then you go to the next note. So it's basically like this. So you do that with every note, and then you can combine it. You can play.
I ask one thing?
Yeah.
Do you do it with like completely flat hair, like, or you change a bit, like or you do two?
So yes, So is there where I want to get? So actually, it's great question, because the approach of the tangent is different. It's not the same when you play like more space, when there's more space between the notes, than when it's faster, right? So when you the important learning of this exercise is that when you play, let's put it this way, when you play faster, you need to put a lower softer tongue. So that is the key, okay? Because it's very fast, so we don't, even if it's staccato, we don't need to play too hard with the tongue, because it's already very fast. So the space between each note passes by very quickly, right? So that's why it's important to understand that the contact of the reed with the tongue with the reed is different. When you play eighth notes, it's more staccato, ta more hard articulation, and then when you are playing quintuplet or sextuplet or even more notes, you need to articulate more smooth in a way softer. So then you can play faster. Yeah, it's basically the reason.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And if you like this kind of videos, like this video and subscribe to the channel so that the algorithm knows that it should recommend it to more people. All right, see you guys all in another one. Bye.